Welcome to the show today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have another exciting DC trip interview for you during our time in DC for the 49th annual March for Life, which we're hopefully and prayerfully considering will be the final March for Life before the overturning of Roe versus Wade, that wicked decision that took away states' rights to even protect preborn children and has led to the slaughter of conservatively at least 63 million unborn children, making it the greatest human rights violation and Holocaust of our time. But it is, we are meeting with a lot of pro-life leaders and discussing how God has uniquely appointed organizations and individuals at sort of key places in the abortion wars to make an impact for life. And today we have Brandi Swindell with us. She's the founder and CEO of Stanton Healthcare, now Stanton International, which seeks to replace abortion businesses around the world because women and their families are entitled to quality coercion-free care and not those who are profiteering off of dehumanizing the unborn and treating their mothers as just as much of a prospect as the preborn child that they kill. From a small room in a doctor's office in Meridian, Idaho, to an international presence, Brandi has led Stanton to the forefront of life-affirming women's health care, and in what we're hoping will be a post-Roe versus Wade landscape, these types of ministries and organizations are actually going to become more important than we've ever seen before, especially in states that make abortion illegal, so that these ministries and clinics really do become the replacement of all abortion centers that actually care for and love women, their families, and the children that they're already a mother to. Buckle up, you're in for a treat. I'm Seth Gruber, and this is Unaborted. Brandi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to meet you. We have sort of been ships passing in the night for a little while, it seems like.
Very true.
I met some Linda from your organization recently, and then Pat Mahoney, and they were like, Seth, come out to DC for what we're doing for the prayer for Dobbs.
That's right.
But I was in South Dakota, and I couldn't make it.
But you did spread the word about it.
I did.
Really appreciated that. We really did.
Yeah, with my little tiny trumpet. I said, go there. But it's fun how God has been uniting so many different people and organizations in the last year and a half.
It's incredible.
And I always say it's because when the enemy overplays his hand and people are sort of become more awakened to what's happening, people and organizations stop caring so much about their branding and their lane.
Yeah.
It's like, who cares? This is the fall of the republic.
Yeah.
But so much of that actually goes back to our failure to protect the preborn child.
Right.
We've been sort of sowing violence in the womb, and now we're reaping it in the streets.
That's right.
We've been sowing apathy in the womb, and now we're reaping it in our politics. But people are starting to wake up, and I want to see more people fighting and contending together. So huge fan of your organization, what you're doing. I told you I came from a background of women's healthcare clinics, pregnancy resource centers, obviously specifically with my mother directing one in her late 20s up until she gave birth to me in her early 30s. So this is very much runs in my blood. I always say that I've been a pro-life activist since I was a fetus, doing backflips in my mother's uterus while she was saving babies at a pregnancy center in Azusa, California.
Okay.
Not all that far from your California center that you have. So before you tell us more about Stanton, I want to hear a little bit about your background. I was reading on the website and I was like, oh, she's been all over the world doing really cool things. And so firstly, I always want my listeners to just kind of get to know the really cool stories of people that God's called into the fight for life. So who is Brandi Swindell and how did you get involved?
Well, I appreciate that question. So I've been in the movement now over 20 years. I'm aging myself now, and I'm not going to tell you my age. People can guess now. But I started full-time in the movement in 1999, but it was actually the summer of 1997 where God really touched my heart to not just say that I was pro-life, because I'd always been pro-life. Raised in a Christian home, went to a private Christian school, so I'd always been pro-life.
Right.
But it wasn't until the summer of 1997 where I was my heart was touched to become actively pro-life. Because it doesn't matter that we say we're against abortion,
exactly
right? It matters that we're actually doing something to prevent the violence of abortion. That's what matters to the child in the
Yeah,
womb.
that's
That's what matters to the woman facing an unexpected pregnancy. That's what's going to change culture and turn it back to a culture of life. And we're believing that we're going to see that, right? A post-Roe world. And so that's kind of our theme with Stanton right now is, dismantle Roe, right? It's archaic. It doesn't match up with science, logic, reason, compassion, hope, all those things. But back to your original question, seems like God always does something that touches our hearts in a powerful way that becomes that catalyst for us to begin making a difference and to not stand on the sidelines anymore, but to actually get involved, get in the trenches, right?
Yes.
So I was, I'm from Idaho, so I'm a bit outdoorsy girl. I've grown up going to Yellowstone National Park with my family since I was a little kid, every summer, 5 years old. And my dream was always, well, I want to work in Yellowstone National Park, someday. So I graduate from high school, moved to Maui for a year right after high school, and then came back home and said, okay, I'm going to work in Yellowstone National Park for a summer. Got a job there. Had a blast, working in the Roosevelt Lodge, and made a ton of friends from not only all over the nation, but all over the world, because they do these hirings and people, from all over the world want to experience. I mean, it's the, America's first national park. Yeah, it's very historic and wonderful. So anyway, I got this job, met lots of different people. I lived in a employee cabin, a great little employee cabin, had two roommates. And I was like the Christian evangelical girl, and meeting lots of wonderful and different people with all different backgrounds and beliefs. And anyway, my roommate became friends and started dating a guy that was one of the cooks there at the Roosevelt Lodge. And lo and behold, in the middle of the summer, she was not acting like herself. And she was a very vibrant, outgoing girl. She had long, wavy, curly hair. She was just always the life of the party. She was about 21 at that time. And she was a skateboarder, and she actually brought her skateboard with her and had like Tonka truck wheels on her skateboard so she could like skateboard in the dirt. I mean, this chick was like really cool, okay? And so just describing her personality and her countenance was just always fun and happy and upbeat. And she started not acting like herself one particular week. And I just thought, well, this is weird. She's just not being herself at all. And we shared a nightstand. We did not have phones in our cabin. And there was a phone book all of a sudden on our shared nightstand. I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And I grabbed it, and it fell open to an earmarked page to abortion providers in Bozeman, Montana.
Oh, wow.
And I went, oh my gosh, she's pregnant. And so I tried to engage with her and how's everything going? Is any, what's going on? Nothing for about a week. And then finally I pulled her aside privately and just blurted it out. I said, "Are you pregnant?" And she just burst into tears. Burst into tears. And sure enough, she was pregnant, was dating that cook in the kitchen that was out there from Boston, and she was, from Nevada. And anyway, so she was, planning to have an abortion. And so, of course, I begged and pleaded with her not to have the abortion. And I remember at one point when we were talking, a tear was streaming down her cheek, and she said, "I know it's wrong, but I have to do it. I know it's wrong, but I have to do it." Yeah. And I'm just going, this is my first time experiencing a situation. This is way before I ever started Stanton. I didn't know all the tools about how to talk to a woman facing unexpected pregnancy, but I began falling in love with this baby, and I had tremendous compassion for her. I remember even writing her a letter. She loved the Beastie Boys, and so in the letter I'm like, if it's a boy, you can name your baby Mike D from the little Mikey D from the Beastie Boys. And my uncle was an attorney, and so I said to her, you can move back with me to Boise, and my uncle can help you with maybe an adoption plan, or you can come live with me and my family, or if you're going to go to Boston, I can go and help you, or if you're going to, I was just trying to.
You were promising everything.
Yes. Throwing every resource I could so she wouldn't feel alone, anything I could think of. And I remember she told me that the abortion was going to be, I believe it was a Thursday at 11 a.m. in Bozeman, remember? And I was working a shift up at the lodge. We both waited tables up there. And so I had an early morning, like 6 a.m. shift for all those fishermen out there that get up way too early and want their breakfast. And so I had that appointment, and I remember doing just the whole time praying and thinking about her and just hoping that she wouldn't go through with it. Yeah. And I remember when my shift was over that afternoon, late afternoon, and I'm walking back to our cabin. And I remember it perfectly, Seth, just perfectly walking down this little dirt trail to our cabin and walking up the steps and putting my hand on the doorknob and turning the doorknob. And I was thinking in my head, hoping and praying, I open the door and she'll just like jump up and down and give me a big hug and say I decided not to do it. And we would just celebrate. I open the door, slowly step in, and as I step into our cabin, our one-room cabin, I can feel it in the air, and I can see it in her limp body as she's laying in the fetal position on her bed. She had had the abortion.
Oh, gosh.
And gives me chills to this day, because that was that life-changing moment. And she was never the same after that. Remember, I described her skateboarder, life the party, loved great music. She was never the same the rest of the summer. Her eyes were different. Her eyes were glazed over. And that's when I realized the lie. I'd always been pro-life because of what it does to the preborn baby, which is the number one concern, right? The innocent, vulnerable child in the womb. But then I saw the lie of what it does to women. It does not free women. It does not give them, this line of choice.
Shocker.
Yeah, exactly. Big surprise. But to see it firsthand, a woman's spirit was destroyed.
Yeah.
And so then I became very, impassioned.
Yeah.
And I did that thing. God brings us to that place where I wasn't angry at God, but I prayed. I said, Lord, I fell in love with this little baby, and I feel like this child just slipped through my hands.
Yeah.
God, what am I supposed to learn through this? And I felt him impress upon my heart. Now you know how I feel when every baby dies.
Yeah.
And this child is one of many.
Yeah.
I didn't know how many abortions were going on. Right. I didn't know that there were millions and millions of babies lost since Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
So I began praying, researching. God started opening my eyes, and I said that prayer. Okay, Lord, you got my attention.
Yeah.
This isn't just an issue. This is real human life. This is a life destroyed. This is a woman's life destroyed.
Yeah.
She will never be the same. The abortion industry is lying. I didn't even know what the abortion industry really was at that point.
Right.
You start to peel back the layers and recognize how horrifying it is. And then I saw how disturbing it is that the laws in America are done in such a way that I'm in Yellowstone National Park. The buffalo have more federal protection than a preborn child.
Yeah, most animals do.
Yeah, a blade of grass, the geysers. And it's beautiful. It's amazing, and there's more protection surrounding that than America's greatest national treasure, our children.
That's right.
And our future children.
Yeah, I did an episode the other day, and I talked about how Germany, the new government in Germany recently, just got rid of, according to The Guardian, a Nazi-era pro-abortion law. A Nazi-era. That must mean it's bad, right? Well, it simply prevented doctors from giving women information about abortions. So the way the left ran with that story, Brandi, was that, even the Nazis were so bad they were pro-life. That's how bad they were. We have to get rid of this Nazi-era law, because obviously any law that the Nazis had must have been really bad.
Right.
And I was like, guys, you missed the story. The story here was not even the Nazis wanted abortion.
Right.
That's the story.
The story. That's how horrific it is.
Yeah. So to your
That's
point,
how horrifying it is.
Even Adolf Hitler and the Nazis actually weren't in support of abortion. And they quoted the law that was overturned in this new law that they passed, in the old law from the 1933. The reason given by the Nazis as to why was to, quote, to protect a German's future.
Right.
It's like, yes, the posterity, the children. So it's like that's just how bad we are in America, is that like we're even worse than the Nazis.
Well,
we even celebrate the slaughter of our preborn children. And okay, did they want to protect and expand the Aryan race? Okay, maybe. Is that bad? Is Aryan supremacy bad? Yes, any racial supremacy that you think is better is bad, of course.
Of course.
But the point is they're like, we don't want to abort ourselves into oblivion. We want a robust,
which is what China's been doing,
population.
And now they're trying to catch up. And isn't it crazy that like Elon Musk is the voice of reason came out, what was that, a month ago, and said the biggest issue facing civilization is we're like, we need to have more children. It's like, this is what the pro-life movement's been saying forever.
Yeah, we don't have an overpopulation
nature,
problem.
You mess with it, right?
We have an underpopulation problem.
Exactly.
So anyways, that was the spark for you then, obviously.
That was the spark for me. So I said that prayer, okay, Lord, use me.
You went back to Idaho.
Yeah, so then I went back. So this is crazy. God does amazing things like this when we open our heart up to him, right? Obviously, he's always, he knows what he's doing. That sounds so simple to say, but it's like amazing. So I said that prayer. Well, I had befriended a girl out there, Heather Hawkins. I didn't share her name. And she was out there doing, she was a missionary out in Yellowstone National Park, which is funny to me that we send missionaries all over the world and even to our national parks. I didn't even know. And so she was part of a group that was doing church services in the outdoor amphitheaters for all the tourists. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Cool. So we became really good friends. And she was her parents had gone to college with a national pro-life leader years ago, Randall Terry.
Yes.
And so he was running for political office in New York. That's where she was from, out in Yellowstone, out from New York. And she said, so I tell her the story to be praying and all of it. So she was, interceding and praying just like I was for this girl. And after it all happened, she said, wow, it seems like God's using this in your life. She goes, I have a job working, an internship working for Randall for his campaign.
Oh, wow.
Maybe God wants you to get one too. And so she got on the phone, and sure enough, a month and a half later, I'm on a plane to New York to work for a national pro-life leader. And that's how I got my activism chops. And this whole world opened up about pro-life outreach and activism, and we don't have to be on the sidelines, so we can make a difference. And I remember doing a mailing, right? All pro-life groups are always doing mailings, and I'm like stuffing envelopes in New York, working for Randall. And I said, I think I'm supposed to be a pro-life activist. I think I'm supposed to do this full time. That's what God wants me to do in the future. And Randall looked at me and said, what are you talking about in the future? You're doing it now. And I was like, I'm a pro-life activist, Nice. And then I just started walking in that. That this is what I want to dedicate my life to.
So tell us about Stanton.
Yeah. So
how did that happen?
Yep. So Stanton Healthcare, founded Stanton Healthcare in 2006. We actually out in Boise did not have a life-affirming women's medical clinic or pregnancy resource center that was doing ultrasounds.
Okay, right.
We had a couple of just the resource centers types, and they just felt they never wanted to do the ultrasound route, and that's fine. They were doing a great work, where they felt called to do stuff. And so I went, wow, again, one of those prayers, Lord, I really pray you raise someone up to start a pro-life medical clinic with ultrasound imaging. Then I was like, oh, I'm supposed to do it. Nice. Okay. And I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, my grandfather and my dad, and so I was raised very much around, just kind of an entrepreneurial way. So of course, when I feel in my heart to start Stanton, my go big vision, I'm like, wait, we need to have a whole movement of life-affirming women's medical clinics with a certain style of branding and all of this. And, maybe God would have it that we, have some here in Idaho, but that we can even expand nationally and internationally, which sure enough is what happened. In fact, I remember feeling that and getting a call from my good friend, Danielle Versluis, who's been in the pro-life movement for many years. Her dad, Jeff White, national pro-life leader. And so we were friends, and she reached out and said, I see what you're doing with your Stanton clinics out in Idaho. Have you ever thought about doing an out-of-state affiliate? And I said, yeah, you want to be our guinea pig?
Nice.
So that's what we have, a Stanton, Southern California. They're doing absolutely amazing things.
Where is that?
It's in Wrightwood area, Tri-Cities area, kind of up above the Pasadena, the hills up above Pasadena. And what was really amazing about that, when Danielle felt in her heart to start a Stanton Healthcare there, and she started praying about it and gathering like-minded people to get involved, she had no idea at the time that Planned Parenthood was getting ready to get the permits to build a mega Planned Parenthood up there.
Wow,
is that crazy? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a impoverished area up there in certain parts, and so there was a real need. And so, God's always doing stuff, man. He's always gonna have, if we just open ourselves up, he's going to use us to make a difference and provide hope and support. And so we have a Stanton, Detroit. We have a public policy center that we just opened in Washington, D.C. We have some international clinics, North Ireland. We just signed paperwork to open one in Scotland, Edinburgh. Yeah, so, and we have a waiting list of quite a few people that like our model, which is life-affirming medical clinics. And we come from that foundation of women like your mom that early on were building these amazing pregnancy resource centers, and we're on the front lines, and so we carry on that beautiful tradition and legacy. You know, those original founding pregnancy resource centers and those praying women, and you know, it's just like that's we've learned from them, embraced that, and we're building off of that in new ways to continue to provide quality of care that's competitive with Planned Parenthood and ultimately replaces Planned Parenthood. That's the goal. And so our model, Seth, is we set up right next door to Planned Parenthoods.
Good.
And if it's not a standalone clinic, then we have mobile clinics that are getting as close to Planned Parenthoods as possible. And that ticks them off. We've been sued by Planned Parenthood out in Idaho. Thankfully, the judge saw through that and dismissed it. But you know, they're bullies. They tried to threaten us. $30,000 in legal fees.
They throw everything.
Oh, everything. I said I'll go to jail before I pay anything in legal fees. Yeah.
They're loaded.
Yeah. But you know what? You stand up against them, they're not going to prevail.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, how do you see a PostRoe America playing out, and what's that going to mean for pregnancy centers, women's pro-life medical clinics like yours? How do you see that future? How can people support you? What's the changing landscape going to look like? How are you preparing for that? What do you foresee? All of that, sort of paint a picture for what the future might look like in America, in both what will become sanctuary states for abortion,
like California,
and the states in which abortion will likely be illegal.
Yeah, like Idaho.
Your centers will be needed
that's right.
I mean, Brad Little needs to find his spine, in my opinion. He has not. He has not been nearly conservative or pro-life enough. But what does the future look like?
He has signed every piece of pro-life legislation into law, though, brought before him. So I do want to acknowledge that. But we want everybody to be a stronger, better, more of a champion for the pro-life cause, for sure. But thankfully he has signed into every pro-life legislation put on his desk. He signed into law, so that's pretty amazing.
Good.
So really good question. As you mentioned earlier, pregnancy centers and life-affirming women's medical clinics are going to be more important than ever when Roe is dismantled and overturned. And that's what we're hoping for and believing. We'll see that ruling in June or maybe earlier. Let's just, looks like the makeup of the court. There's several justices. It appears they don't believe that there's a constitutional right to abortion, and so let's hope our sense is right and that they dismantle it. It's time. It's time that we dismantle Roe. It's failed women. It's failed children. It's failed society. All of those things, of course. But what's significant here is that you envision picturing Roe being overturned, the abortion industry is going to lose their minds.
We'll have riots in the street.
Oh, they'll throw tantrums, kick, scream.
People will die. No, seriously, it'll make the summer of love of 2020, the Black Lives Matter Antifa riots look peaceful.
Well,
then we will use the media line that was mostly peaceful summer. Yeah, if Roe versus Wade gets overturned. Because it's Satan's sacrament.
It is.
Sacrament. Abortion is the high sacrament of the religion of secular progressivism.
Well, and it's a spiritual battle.
So if they lose we're going to have riots in the street.
Right.
People will be murdered over this.
Well,
but what does that mean for pregnancy centers, women's health care clinics?
Well, and people are already being murdered in the womb. So it's always a
Yep.
harsh, horrific thing.
Yeah, bloodshed begets bloodshed.
So they'll lose their minds, but it's important that the pro-life community continue to remain peaceful, hopeful, strategic. I mean, we have some of the most brilliant minds in the pro-life movement on a national level, on local, state levels, and so we are organized. We're a diverse movement, as you well know, with lots of different ideas. But that's because there's a lot of smart thinkers and leaders and get stuff done type of people. So we're actually we're poised, and America is ready for Roe to be dismantled. We have several states that have the trigger laws.
Right.
So when Roe goes back to the states, like Idaho, we're ready to go. It's built into Idaho's law that we reject abortion. So there's several states that have that. I think the numbers are now that pregnancy centers and life-affirming clinics outnumber abortion clinics 4-1. And so we have thousands of life-affirming women's medical clinics that are already helping women and stand ready when Roe is overturned. So this idea that the pro-abortion movement says
when
that
you add pregnancy resource centers or pro-life pregnancy with other just women's medical clinics that don't perform abortions,
that are life-affirming,
you're left with about 4 to 1.
Absolutely. So the support is there. The support is there for women. They're not going to be by themselves flailing around.
That's what
no
Planned
support.
Parenthood says.
Right. Oh, they're going to be.
Go.
Well, yeah.
Where are they going to get a pap smear?
Yeah. Exactly. No, my team and I talk about it all the time. That on one level, women are like so empowered.
Where are they going to get prenatal care?
No, they're not going to. Where do they find birth control pills?
Cecile
no
Richards
idea.
told me that they do prenatal care.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure prenatal care, adoptions. The way they talk,
just read their annual report.
Exactly. Look where all the amount of money that's raised. Largest, Planned Parenthood, the largest abortion provider, the largest chain in the world. It's a money-making abortion profiteering machine. And so, but the pro-life movement stands ready. Pro-life America stands ready. Women are going to be supported. They're going to be provided with quality care and hope-filled solutions, real solutions for unexpected pregnancies. The states are ready, and so it's time. And when you look at, again, Roe v. Wade is so archaic. I mean, the science has always been on our side and always will be. Logic and reason has always been on our side. Hope, love, and compassion has always been on our side, and it will be. And so it's time. And the majority of Americans favor restrictions on abortion. So and the majority of Americans actually believe in dismantling Roe. When the polling questions are asked properly, do you believe that abortion should be legal through all 9 months? No, the majority of Americans don't agree with that. Do you believe in restrictions on abortions? Yes. Do you?
Because they always phrase it.
That means they don't believe in Roe.
Do you support Roe or do you oppose Roe? That's
Nobody knows what Roe is.
They don't know. Most people don't know that it legalized abortion through point of birth. And so
you break down
Planned
the
Parenthood
questions.
says, look, the majority of Americans support,
and it's not true.
Support Roe. So I know they don't even know. Because then when you ask them, do you support abortion through all 9 months?
You break it down, and the
clear.
majority of Americans believe in dismantling Roe.
So, Brandi, if people want to connect with Stanton, if someone listening has a heart for pregnancy resource centers, for alternatives to abortion, for full range medical care for women, we have people listen from all over the country, and a lot of people are getting involved with pregnancy centers as volunteers, or they're getting involved with sidewalk counseling. If someone listening has a heart for that ministries, especially as it will be so much more needed in the near future here, how do they connect with you, with Stanton, learn more, or maybe open up another location if they want to somewhere?
Yeah, so we would love.
Tell us how to connect with you.
Yeah, we'd love for people to reach out. StantonInternational.org. StantonInternational.org. That's our website. And there's always a need for volunteers, interns, starting up a Stanton Healthcare clinic or a Stanton boutique or a mobile in your area. The need is tremendous. Financial resources, this is a big battle. It's a big challenge. So we always are looking for the support. And I love doing interviews like this, and I appreciate the opportunity because there are people that are touched by what we're doing, because God's, just like he's doing with you, he raises us up to fill a certain place in the pro-life movement, and there is an organization for everybody. I always say that there's a place for you in the movement and a place where you can serve in the pro-life movement. And so StantonInternational.org. We've also launched our Purple Sash Revolution campaign, which is our activism and advocacy campaign. And so we actually have purple sashes that say equal rights for preborn women and then end abortion violence on the back. And it's, during the suffragette movement, they wore the sashes, votes for women, and it was a physical representation of what they believed. And so, our name Stanton comes from Elizabeth Cady Stanton. That's right. She was a pro-life, suffragist. She believed.
Just like AOC, right?
Yeah. Oh, so similar.
Remember, they all showed up wearing white to identify with the early feminists.
That's part of why we launched Purple Sash Revolution.
They believe the same things as Stanton and the suffragettes, right?
When I saw them wearing their all white, and President Trump's giving his, State of the Union, and they were anything he said that was like totally pro-woman, they would disagree with anything.
They should have been dressed in deep scarlet red.
They should have. And I said, and I immediately reached out to Danielle and our executive team, and we're like, we have got to come up with a campaign that represents true feminism, pro-life feminism. The original feminists were pro-life. Yeah, that's right. And so
even Betty Friedan wasn't a big fan of abortion until Larry Lader, the father of abortion, worked on her for 10 years to put abortion into the National Organization for Women's political platform.
Isn't that just evil?
And that's how the sexual revolution hijacked the women's movement to become one of the
That's what happened. There was a hijacking that occurred. There was a hijacking because originally all the feminists knew was they were fighting for, votes for women and equality and all these wonderful things.
She was pressured and broken down to finally put it in.
Yeah.
But Betty Friedan was not a pro-abortion activist.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Here we are now.
Here we are, yeah.
Yeah.
So purplesashrevolution.com. People
Wonderful.
can order their sashes. We have lots of upcoming events. We've opened an office here in D.C., the next 3 years with the pro-abortion Biden administration. We're going to be fighting everything that they try to do. And isn't it wild that we have this radically pro-abortion administration, yet we have the Supreme Court looking at a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade? I mean, Roe v. Wade is just remarkable. So
it's almost like our founders knew what they were doing when they put in checks and balances.
Yeah, they kind of did.
Yeah.
They kind of knew. Yeah. Well, and the most compelling thing, thank you for letting me talk on and on and on. I could talk for hours, as you probably could too, about pro-life stuff. But it comes down to the women that we serve and their remarkable stories. And speaking of the whole feminist angle, we're producing a video right now of one of our clients from a few years ago who was going to law school out in Idaho, found herself facing an unexpected pregnancy. And she had just come out of a not good marriage, kind of an abusive situation, was in law school and pregnant. And the father of the baby, who was another law student, said, you should get an abortion. We're both going to, how are we supposed to graduate law school and pass the bar with the baby? And people around her were saying, oh, wow, this really ruins your plans, doesn't it? And in her heart, she's going, but I want this baby. But everybody's telling me I might ruin my life. And then the dean of students and a few others she met with, and they said, you can get through law school and have this baby.
Yeah.
So she had a handful of people that said, you can do this. She embraced that baby. She had the baby during law school, graduated law school, passed the bar with a little toddler, and is now a practicing attorney with this beautiful little boy, Zeke. So the world says, the abortion industry says, you're going to ruin your life, an unexpected pregnancy, you can't achieve any of your goals. And here we have living proof of someone who embraced motherhood, embraced the baby, is a practicing attorney.
That's right.
And is really empowered and fired up because she experienced the lie of pro-choice feminism. And it dawned on her, she realized the abortion movement has created a society where they pressure women to have abortions. That should be, she was so shocked that everybody was like, oh, you're going to get an abortion, right? That it was insulting to her as a woman. Well, why if men can embrace careers and children?
male employers in the early 70s, late 70s, early 80s just began expecting their pregnant employees to deal with it because you got to be productive, right? I'm paying you. And so you ended up developing an anti-woman culture that expected women to choose abortion so that they can continue producing at the widget factories and just making a little bit more money. But we all know, everyone knows that the career and the money never ends up panning out in satisfaction in the end.
Doesn't.
It's the things we were created to do, to have children, to have families.
That's right.
And I think people are starting to wake up to that slowly but surely. But we'll all be out there poking and prodding some pro-aborts, trying to get them to defend their bigotry.
Nice.
And you'll be there loving on them, caring for them, reminding them that abortion will not fulfill them. We're at different battlefronts, but I'm happy to be the slap you in the face person.
We each have our role, man.
And your role is just as important, especially in the near future here. So we'll put everything in the show notes. People can connect with Stanton Healthcare. Wonderful work you're doing. I want to see hundreds of those all throughout the country.
Thank you for that.
Because I think the narrative is starting to shift. And I think more Americans are starting to realize that abortion, whether you support it or not, it hasn't been the best thing since sliced bread. No. It hasn't helped women. It hasn't helped families. The activists and the kooks will never admit this. I mean, when's the last time you saw a major abortion leader change their mind? I've actually been thinking about this.
Interesting.
I can't think of one. Abby Johnson doesn't count. She was a Planned Parenthood clinic director. I'm talking about Cecile Richards level. I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton level. That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
When's the last time we saw an abortion leader at that echelon change their mind, repent, and become pro-life? I can't think of one.
Yeah, you make a good point.
I can't think of one.
You make a really good point.
Except Bernard Nathanson, maybe. But that was in the 70s.
Yeah, and that was incredible.
So those people, I think Satan, I think they've sold their soul to Satan, and so I think barring a miracle of God, those people aren't going to change their minds. But those people don't live in reality.
No, they don't.
The people who live in reality, they're starting to open their eyes and realize, oh man.
Well, here's why I always tell people we're going to win. is because, well, since Roe v. Wade, you and I are both part of it. I'm much older than you, but we're part of the PostRoe,
Right.
the generation born after abortion was legalized. There's, we're walking around going, I'm glad I wasn't aborted.
Yeah.
Wow, I was open prey in my mother's womb. Do you know what I mean? Even if it wasn't, our mothers weren't considering abortion, we had a government that was saying you didn't have value in the womb.
Yeah.
So there's an entire
the
generation.
prenatal imagery and people see the baby now.
Then you have the ultrasound imaging that is so clear and so evident.
Millennials grew up seeing their mom's pictures of them in the womb or their siblings on the refrigerator.
It's right
like,
there.
Oh, look, that was me.
Aspirin bottles say do not take if you are pregnant, may cause harm to the unborn child. Check with your doctor. Like literally the pharmaceutical companies on the aspirin bottles are defining it as an unborn child. Do you know what I mean? That's what I use when I do speaking. I was like, if anybody wants to know about the humanity of the child, don't listen to me. This is what the pharmaceutical companies write. And they're worried about lawsuits. They have to write everything exactly right. And they call it an unborn child.
Well, we're going to make big changes in the pro-life movement. And so much of that has to be connecting that digital marketing, humanizing of the child online, and then using that as a platform to direct and point abortion-minded women to places like Stanton Healthcare,
100%.
to places like Heartbeat International and CareNet, after they're confronted with the very real humanity of their child. And we know when it comes to mobile medical units, 80% or more of women reject abortion. So, well, we both have to get going and get marching and get out there. But thanks for coming by today, and thanks for all that you're doing. And any final words?
Yeah, well, Seth, I appreciate you. You keep doing what you're doing, and I just encourage your viewers and listeners that, to stay in the battle, and every day is a victory when there's a child saved from abortion, and we see that on a daily basis. And so that's why the radical abortion lobby is never going to win, and we're going to see an end to Roe. We see it every day in our clinics and the hearts and minds of our women. And everybody just offer up your gifts and your talents and your skills to the Lord and to the pro-life movement, and that's how we're going to see change.
Amen. Yeah. Everyone has a role.
Well, thank you guys for joining the show today. Head on over to iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, give the show a rating and review. It really helps us reach more people. We'll put the show notes to Stanton Healthcare, Stanton International. A lot of people have been reaching out to be saying they're getting involved with pregnancy resource centers, either in a staff position or in a volunteer capacity. So if that's on your heart, and especially if you live somewhere that doesn't have a women's pro-life pregnancy center medical provider, maybe that's supposed to be you. Consider it, pray about it, and Stanton would be happy to partner with you in launching new clinics, which are going to be very necessary in the future. So important work they're doing, worthy of your support as well. Head on over to patreon.com/unaborted to become a patron of the show if you want to help us reach more people. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, or go to my website, sethgruber.com, to sign up for my newsletter, to stay informed, to see my speaking schedule, or to book me for an event as 2022 is filling up quickly. We're coming to you from Washington, D.C. We're marching for life. Thank you for joining the show. I'm Seth Gruber, and this is Unaborted.